Story 1. No investing, yet more than half of all the answers here are about investment, direct or otherwise. It is difficult to define investment in this context. Story 2. I pay it in full to the administrators of this subreddit for finally banning posts that ask how to spend money, because the number of them is too high. Story 3. I would consider paying down the hospital bills of those struggling in the United States, particularly children with long-term health issues. I would certainly celebrate very enthusiastically. Story 4. If you can keep what you buy, such as one house to live in and a few to rent out. However, if you have to give away or use up everything you buy, you might consider acquiring a bunch of yachts and then sinking them to create a reef or another purpose. Story 5. I don't know if it's possible. Almost all high-value transactions require proof of funds and waiting periods. If you could organize some things, such as making people aware of this, real estate is a viable option. A few commercial properties and a few residential ones could get you there. Story 6. What constitutes investing? Is it simply putting money into stocks? First, I would pay off my mortgage and the mortgages of my immediate family. I would set up college fund trusts for my children, nieces, and nephews. Next, I would find a decent plot of land and purchase it. Then, I would locate a company to build a house precisely to my specifications, paying extra to expedite the process. I would buy a new Toyota Sienna, a new bedroom suite, and new furniture. I would gather materials to create a large vegetable garden. I would hire cleaning services on a schedule, a nutritionist to help plan meals, and a chef for both meal planning and cooking. I would also hire a lawn care service. For vacations, I would plan trips to places like Harry Potter World, Disneyland, New Zealand, Canada, Japan, and Western Europe, flying first class for each family member. I would donate generously to my church, which offers exceptional community benefits, such as a preschool at a fraction of the cost of other options, a community garden to help feed the hungry, and daycare services during small group activities throughout the week. I would invest in an entirely new wardrobe while keeping the same style. I would choose higher quality items for durability. I would purchase more pairs of orthopedic dress shoes. I would cover my existing tattoo with a larger and better one. I would also address various dental needs. Depending on the condition of the road where I bought the new property, I would pay to have it widened, add a sidewalk, and install streetlights. I may not make a significant impact with this list, but that's a starting point for what I would do. Story 7. I will use the funds for an upfront payment for 20 years of full-year travel for my entire family and for about a dozen cabins throughout the mountains. Additionally, I plan to make significant donations to various Ivy League universities, hoping they will remember my generosity. Are these considered loopholes? My neighbor will receive a brand new arm. Besides that, I will organize a large party for the people on my street. Any remaining funds will be allocated to research and development to support the cure for diseases. Story 8. Pay off everything, including the house, student loans, and cars. Send half of the funds to Ukraine, pay off all back property taxes for everyone in my town, and give the remainder to every person running against the Make America Great Again movement in the 2026 elections. Story 9. All these people saying they would buy property have never bought property. It takes 24 hours for a real estate agent to read an email you send them, let alone go through the entire purchase process. Story 10. I'm going to buy something special for my wife for exactly $1 billion. It's a solid investment that has both short-term and long-term benefits for us. Story 11. Transfer all funds to Ukraine in exchange for a lifelong pension and inscribe my signature on every bomb or drone purchased with it. Story 12. Food banks, children's hospitals, homeless shelters, and scholarships for low-income students are important resources. Buying any asset can be a way of saving. If not, purchasing a $10 million house and selling it for $7 million can provide a comfortable living through the interest and proceeds from that property. Story 13. Student loans eliminated, medical debt eliminated, dream home purchased, vacation home purchased, dream car acquired, wife's dream car acquired, a car mechanic shop acquired, no need to pay to fix my car if I own the company, hospital purchased, never worry about medical bills again if I own the building, 2 or 3 restaurants acquired, I am a career chef. My dream is to own and operate a restaurant. so I would purchase more than one as a backup in case one fails. Speaking of cooking, I would buy the finest kitchenware. Then I would purchase new shoes and other miscellaneous items. Everything left over, which will still be millions, I would donate to charity. Additionally, I would hire some friends to help with the purchases, so we could divide and conquer. Story 14. I would secure a lifetime admission to the best university in my country, a lifetime ticket with the best airline, buy as much land as I can for conservation purposes, hire a team of professionals such as a lawyer, doctor, and notary for life. Story 15. The first thing I would do is prepay for absolutely everything I could. Decades of rent, food, healthcare, utilities, travel, and all the essential aspects of life. I am technically spending it, but my future self will be comfortable for life. Then I would go on a shopping spree for tangible items like art, rare collectibles, luxury gear, and maybe even a private island if that counts. It is all technically just items I purchased, but some of them might appreciate in value. It is not my fault if the Mona Lisa 2.0 becomes more valuable. Next, I would hire a dream team, a personal chef, fitness coach, assistant, and maybe a language tutor so I can finally pretend to be cultured. I would pay their salaries upfront for several years and include occasional bonuses and benefits. Again, just spending with long-term advantages. Finally, I would establish a nonprofit and contribute a significant amount within 24 hours. I would not technically own it after that, but I could choose the board, mission, and team, basically shaping something meaningful while staying within the rules. So yes, no saving, no investing, but I would absolutely spend my way into a pretty favorable setup for the future. Story 16. Buying a house. I live in Amsterdam and I want to live here for the rest of my life, but nowadays you have to be very wealthy to buy a nice house here. Story 17. Open multiple leveraged trading accounts, trade a few cryptocurrencies and stocks, and watch as Donnie loses his mind. Story 18. A non-fungible token is a real asset because it is not fungible. I would buy it from my wife. Story 19. If I can keep what I buy, houses and apartments, gold, silver, hotel stays and airline tickets worldwide, land in residential and industrial areas, beauty products with long shelf life, cars, food grains, possibly some businesses. Story 20. If I keep anything past 24 hours, is that saving? If I sell something later, is that item an investment? What possible loophole can be found or exploited with 3 rules? Story 21. First reaction. Hospital ship. Buying and converting an old cruise ship should cost less than $500 million. The U.S. Navy's hospital ships cost $208 million each to convert from old oil tankers. The rest can be allocated to setting up a charity trust to operate it under a pirate flag with myself as captain. I would sail the 7 seas, going from place to help people in need. Second reaction. Northvolt. A battery factory in northern Sweden that recently went bankrupt due to production issues. It's not too far from where I live. I would buy them out and then give all the workers and subcontractors a bonus to improve their standard of living. Any remaining funds would be invested in building a theme park. Story 22. Given the parameters, I cannot spend it because everything is an investment in some way. Story 23. The entire initiative focuses on providing housing for the homeless. Select a disease and support researchers in finding a cure. Fund university education for underprivileged children, which is what you would typically expect billionaires to do. Story 24. Hiring enough operatives and contractors around the globe to change the world could reshape the entire geopolitical landscape with $1 billion. Story 25. Pay my girlfriend $1 billion. She would do it for free, but I need to spend the money quickly. Story 26. Buying property to live in, settling family debt, and acquiring classical marble statues are my goals. One thing I have always wanted to do is buy a congressman. I would like a couple of corrupt individuals to pass laws for me. Story 27. If I am able to keep the things I buy, such as gold, physical gold in the form of coins, bars, and rings, I will wait for the price to stabilize and potentially increase. I plan to take a significant amount of money out of circulation and then gradually reintroduce it to maintain a stable quality of life for the rest of my life. Story 28. I am likely purchasing valuable items to resell later, such as buying as many Lamborghinis as I can in a day and reselling them afterwards. Story 29. I am going to buy my mom her dream fruit tree garden, a house for my sister, and a good car for my dad. I want to get something for my cousins as well because I love them. Story 30. There is an amazing website called James Edition that sells luxury items. That is one option to consider. However, I would first contact the student loans company in the UK and pay off as much student debt as possible, including that of my family. I would need to get myself some essentials, likely purchased at Harrods, just to see their reactions. Story 31. 50% for charity, 40% for family and friends, and 10% for partying 24 hours to do whatever I want. I want to make others' lives better and hope they think of me when I turn poor again. Otherwise, it has been a good 24 hours at least. I can sleep well knowing I am doing okay. Story 32. Pay off all current debts, including the house, school loans, and credit cards. Pay property taxes in advance for the next 20 years, although I do not plan to stay in this house that long. Purchase properties, start multiple businesses, and pay off my friends' homes and some family members' homes. Establish a trust for my daughter and my future stepchildren. Pay off the house of my future stepchildren's mother and cover the proposed levy for the new school in my town to prevent an increase in taxes. Gift every household in my town, which has fewer than 5,000 residents, and find entrepreneurs who need assistance. Story 33. Pay someone $1 billion to answer absurd, impossible, and nonsensical questions on Reddit. Story 34. Paying for flights and housing for all those people who want to leave the United States due to current circumstances but cannot afford to. Or, at least, for all those I can contact within the 24-hour period. Story 35. It seems like anything I try would be a loophole of some kind. Hire a team of assistants and prepay them for 100 years, potentially with a repayment clause if they quit. Identify the largest lotteries and buy every ticket, assuming I can keep the winnings. Gamble? If I can keep any winnings, I would place half on red and half on black, hoping I don't get very unlucky. Alternatively, invest everything in casino chips. If all else fails, acquire as many companies, buildings, and similar assets as possible that will generate income or reliably maintain their value. Even if I had $1 billion, it would be challenging to accomplish most of these transactions in under 24 hours unless there are instantaneous processes for identity verification, escrow, legal contracts, proof of funds, and inspections. Even purchasing a house takes considerable time, not to mention acquiring companies or buildings. Ultimately, the rules would need to be clarified. I would typically lean towards methods that allow me to reintegrate the funds into my regular life, but that might itself be a loophole. Story 36. I will spend every penny on gold bars and diamonds, which I will liquidate as needed after the 24-hour period. Story 37. 2 hours to hire programmers and administrators. They set up several bots to purchase large quantities of valuable goods and have them all shipped to the new warehouse I just bought, along with a few workers, loading equipment, and security to keep things running. All I have done is pay people for goods and services. There is no saving, investing, or exploiting loopholes. I then celebrate for the rest of the 24 hours and wake up with a hangover but at the head of a billion-dollar business empire. Easy choices. Story 38. I would give almost all of it away and then arrange for the biggest party the world has ever seen in Las Vegas with what is left over. Story 39. Hire a lawyer, purchase as much conservation land as possible, and protect it from ever being sold. Story 40. Donate 10 million to 99 charities, taking screenshots as I do so I can send them to individuals who oppose the groups I am supporting. Contact the estate agent and builders and prepay for their services. Then spend 1 million on various items, including my entire Steam wish list, a fancy PC, and a few thousand on Warhammer, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, and others. Story 41. Give it all to my government in lieu of taxes. This means becoming tax exempt for the rest of my life. It's not savings, it's not investing, and it's not a loophole. It's spending money and getting something in return. Story 42. Do I get to keep everything that I buy? I buy all the properties I can, then sell some immediately to have cash and rent out the others. Story 43. Honestly, there is no way to spend that much money on anything that quickly. Since investing in or purchasing anything from a bank is forbidden, I would take $1 billion checks, go to a large city, and give them to random people. Story 44. What does no loopholes mean? I would pay off all my debts, ensure there is more than enough for my aging parents to live comfortably, and purchase a few houses and some land. I am in the United Kingdom, so I would consider a couple of central London townhouses, a luxurious detached house on the outskirts of the city, and some land with a mansion a bit further away. In addition, I would buy a lot of technology, several cars, and boats. This might be a loophole, but it would effectively give my business a significant boost. I would also pay for a couple more degrees. Story 45. For me, it would be nice to have a home for each member of my family and close friends. Nothing extravagant, just a very nice house for each person. I would also like a few vacation cabins in spectacular mountain locations and summer houses on some Greek and exotic islands. I would buy everything I have ever wanted. I would organize an incredible trip around the world. The remaining funds would go to support research, education, and charity. Story 46. Gender-affirming surgery paid in full, a lifetime supply of testosterone, lifetime guitar and singing lessons, apartments in 5 countries, new teeth, a lifetime chauffeur service, and the remainder to human rights, anti-war, and LGBTQI charities. Story 47. I am giving a lot to my close friends, family, and charitable causes as an easy start. In addition, I plan to book a few trips in advance around the world to places I have never been. I am focused on paying off any debts we have, including our mortgage. Overall, life is already pretty good, and doing these things would make me feel even better. Story 48. Taking the phrase "no investment" literally means I have to buy something that will never generate any profit. Therefore, the purchase must either involve completely selfish spending or philanthropy. One reasonable option would be to donate the money to a large, reputable charity. Another idea would be to purchase a significant piece of land with the intention of converting it into a nature reserve. However, this would entail paying substantial property taxes in the future. Story 49. Can I buy gold? If not, then I would pay off all family and friend debts and consider purchasing a nice house that I can afford the tax burden for. The remainder would be used to pay off as much medical debt as possible. Story 50. I would purchase a couple of permanent cabins on a luxury cruise ship, with all food and amenities included. This would provide a place to live for free and allow me to bring guests. If possible, I would hire a travel agency and pay them upfront to handle my travel needs for the rest of my life. Want a car? They can arrange one. Flights? They are covered. I would buy a mansion for myself and my closest friends to live in together, something we have dreamed about in the past. I would contract someone to manage and maintain it for the next 25 years or so. I would purchase a house for everyone in my family, wherever they desire to live. If it's more than 8 houses in one transaction, I can get an exemption on the second home tax in the UK. Anything left over would go to charity. Story 51. Investing can be complicated. If I purchase a substantial amount of jewelry or a mansion, am I investing in real estate or gold? What about buying them on the futures market instead of from brokers and jewelers? Story 52. Clearly, you don't understand how billionaires exist. I am exploiting a loophole to save and invest. Story 53. What counts as investing? Does buying a building and using it to start a commercial activity count? Does buying anything at all and reselling it after 24 hours count? Either way, I would probably buy a big warehouse and store every item I want to purchase inside it. Personal gym equipment, a top-of-the-line bike, a few high-end computers, a treadmill, a large television, and so on. Story 54. Pay off my house and other debts. Then, as someone who is currently underemployed, I would hire a good contract lawyer and approach a company about making a sizable donation on the condition that I receive a lifetime job that pays 6 figures. Story 55. Seeing as I can't keep any money to upgrade my lifestyle, buy a home, perhaps a second one somewhere nicer, and donate the remaining $0.99 billion to about 1,000 small-scale initiatives around the world that aim to make the world a better place. Story 56. 7/8 of it is to bribe Israeli guards. 1/8 of it is for food and personal items so people can survive in Gaza. Story 57. Donate it to homeless shelters and organizations that address extreme poverty in my state. They are all being affected by the actions of the Republican Party at both the state and federal levels. A church where I work organized a volunteer emergency winter shelter, and I would like to convert that into a permanent space with paid staff. Story 58. Pay all family debts, cover all medical expenses, buy desired items such as electronics, meals at restaurants, travel tickets, and anything else, then donate the remainder. Story 59. I will enjoy myself for one day and use the leftover money for charity. My generosity could even earn me fame and sympathy from the public. Story 60. Yachts, alcohol, firearms, luxury cars, mansions, and clubs. I will likely end up selling a significant portion of them again, but I wasn't saving, investing, or really taking advantage of loopholes. I was just buying enjoyable items. Story 61. Hire a team to carry out projects around the world and change the landscape. Story 62. You would be limited to a 24-hour online shopping spree. Cars, houses, and yachts will not be sold without a contract. No contract can be written, read, and reviewed by all the lawyers in one day. Story 63. Buy land worth $1 billion or a private island in a high-demand area. Once I fulfill the conditions, I will sell it for profit. There will always be someone who figures out how to make money if given the opportunity. Unfortunately, most of us do not get that opportunity. If I am not allowed to sell it, I will rent it to generate passive income. Story 64. Anytime you spend money, even if it's for something temporary, you're still investing it. The only things you could purchase with $1 billion in 24 hours would be considered investments. Gold, silver, loose stones, platinum, or palladium. You cannot invest in land because there is no way you would have time to clear all the paperwork and close the deal, unless you wanted to be foolish and pay off part of your home country's national debt. Story 65. No saving or investing makes this moot. Even buying food is an investment in future caloric needs. This is relevant because 9 out of 10 answers here are just people thinking they are not investing when they are describing investments with extra steps. Story 66. Find some people who will let me directly buy their houses, purchasing a house for each of my children along with a car for each, ensuring their needs are met without extravagance since they will need to cover future costs. I would bulk buy non-perishable items for us and arrange storage for those items. I will pay builders in advance, specifically those I know and trust, to repair and renovate my grandmother's and aunt's houses as well as mine, making mine accessible. I plan to buy a car for myself and my husband, pay insurance on all cars and houses for the year, pay my cleaner for 5 years in advance, and hire a personal assistant and caregiver I know who would be happy to help. I will pay for driving lessons for my 2 youngest children. I will buy all the books needed for my degree and master's courses, along with a new MacBook Pro for each of us. It is time to update our wardrobes, as I haven't bought a new pair of jeans in about 9 years. I will acquire a new comfortable sofa, a new bed, and mattresses. I will take the pets to the veterinarian for a full health checkup and screening, paying an advance sum for the next 5 years of care. I will purchase the power tools I need to replace, along with any I have been wishing for, and check if the kids need any hobby equipment. I will pay off my student loan, the children's loans, and any current debts any of us may have. Story 67. Create a fund for scientific research with an emphasis on data reproducibility. Design and conduct research, then report your observations. Story 68. I would watch a couple of movies, complete with theater-priced popcorn and hot dogs. A drink if I can afford it. Story 69. I guess none of you know how money works. You can't do anything with $1 billion in just 24 hours. You can buy some items at your local store or purchase a car at your local dealership. However, how long does it take the system to process a $1 billion transaction? Takes longer than 24 hours. You can't just show up at a mega yacht place and say, "Here you go." Takes time and paperwork. Additionally, it is illegal in most places to carry large sums of cash. Your transactions will need to go through the banking system, Also, the Internal Revenue Service will be monitoring you. There is nothing in the question that states you inherited it or anything similar. It simply says you receive it. The government will be all over you, and even that process will take longer than 24 hours. Story 70. Someone should make a movie where an uneducated simple man is offered $300 million if he can spend $30 million in 10 days. Story 71. Absolutely. Let's consider how to allocate some hypothetical funds. I would pay off my debts, reach out to anyone I have affection for, and help clear their financial obligations as well. I would make significant donations to artists and creators I admire, as well as contribute to local charities, schools, clinics, and public services. Essentially, I would provide support to anyone who is willing to accept assistance. There are certainly items I would like to purchase, but the 24-hour time constraint makes things challenging. If I called a real estate agent urgently seeking to buy something today, I feel they would be doubtful. Story 72. Solving homelessness with yachts. Every homeless person I encounter is receiving a $250,000 yacht. This will result in many individuals lacking training in operating boats and a significant number without insurance. They will be navigating the open ocean. Story 73. Gold bricks, platinum, diamonds, art, and real estate can all be bought and sold repeatedly, making it easy to liquidate when you need money. Story 74. This is particularly unwise. Any purchase you make is an investment, and stating there are no loopholes is generally meaningless. For instance, I plan to purchase every building for sale in my city's downtown and nearby neighborhoods. Then, I will buy as much lumber and supplies as I believe necessary for extensive repairs, sending them to a warehouse. I will also establish contracts with construction companies for specific building projects. Finally, I intend to acquire equipment to advance my business after settling my remaining debt. Story 75. I will take 2 ultramarine squads and 1 bottle of Nuln oil. Story 76. How many higher education institutions can I acquire for $1 billion? Or I could establish a large trust in the name of the institution to ensure educators are well compensated and students have access to affordable tuition with loans supported by a bank affiliated with the institution. Story 77. I would donate the entire $1 billion to a mix of frontline humanitarian organizations, medical research foundations, and grassroots environmental initiatives, prioritizing groups that can deploy funds immediately for critical impact. Story 78. A few hours of cryptocurrency meme coin trading, then spend the last $10 buying cheeseburgers at McDonald's. Story 79. I bought $1 billion worth of gold, platinum, and rhodium because I love shiny things. Then, 24 hours later, surprisingly, my enthusiasm diminished, so I decided to sell the majority of what I had purchased and invest it wisely. Story 80. Give 99% away to charities. With the remaining 1%, buy a house or consider it an investment. Alternatively, take a year-long, all-expenses-paid round-the-world trip for myself and 10 of my friends. Story 81. Assuming that any answer that provides me with something tangible would be a loophole, I would say it involves indulgence and excess. Story 82. Paying $1 billion to Reddit and making it against the terms of service to ask the same question about having $1 billion and needing to spend it in 24 hours. Story 83. Buying a fleet of food trucks, giving them to laid-off restaurant workers, paying their salaries for a year, and then making random giveaways like, you get a house. Story 84. I am investing every cent into my community. Do you need your roof fixed? Done. Is a tiny, affordable housing community being built? Done. I will invest in community social supports to ensure everyone is fed and cared for. Done. Then I will fix up my house and yard and head back to work. Story 85. First, I am calling 4 law firms to get their teams mobilized immediately, offering them triple rates and 10 times the rate if they complete the entire list. I have a lot of paperwork that needs to be completed and will need extra hands and brains. Then, I will proceed with the following tasks in order until I have 30 minutes left. 1. Pay off all debts of everyone in my family and inner circle. Buy all houses within 2 blocks of my property, as I prefer not to have neighbors. Purchase the largest available warehouse within 2 hours of my location. Acquire as many different cars and woodworking materials as I can fit. I will make purchases online and pay in advance. Buy a couple of hundred head of cattle for food. Buy a bulldozer as I need to clear my new land. Purchase a nursery to acquire materials for planting on my new land. I will call the medical debt company and have them apply the available balance of my $1 billion to debt, starting with families that have the highest debt-to-income ratio. I will prepay, as it will take time for them to process payments. I enjoy relaxing alone in a forest park in a city with amenities, driving new cars, and working on my woodworking projects as I develop my land to pass the time. Story 86. Without saving or investing, you cannot spend much. Anything physical you buy could just be resold. Essentially, the only purchases you can make are for paying bills and debts, and perhaps perishable items like food. Story 87. I would pay every teacher in the nation an equal bonus for their work, with special education teachers receiving a 1.5 times modifier. Story 88. Pay off my mortgage, buy a new car, and donate the rest to Ukraine so they can fight off the Russian invaders. A paid mortgage and a new car are blessings that most people dream of, and those whose lives are being destroyed by ruthless aggressors need it more than I do. Story 89. I would buy a couple of Snap-on tool ratchets and maybe a screwdriver if the tool guy offers a discount and a free hat. Story 90. Go watch Brewster's Millions with some real people and then, just as a wild idea, talk about it afterwards. Like real living people do. You may even realize that this is not the first time this question has been asked. You are not original in any way, shape, or form. Story 91. Pay everyone on my street $20,000 to carry me like Jesus above their heads through town, while others with money guns fire $20 bills like machine guns along my path. I'm not sure why this sounds like a good idea. It will probably cause a riot. I may need to bribe the police. I might buy people dinner. I might have aimed too low here. Story 92. Buy a hospital and a school, and pay all the teachers and doctors enough to work there for a lifetime. Provide free education for children and free healthcare. Since investing is not permitted, I would have prioritized my own needs first. Story 93. Nobody is saying much about land, but I am focused on it. I am buying every bit of land available in my hometown and the neighboring town where my mother wants to live, as well as where my brother, sister, and their parents want to live. I am purchasing land and then more land with plans to build on it. Perhaps some houses, maybe some apartment complexes, and possibly farms, who knows? But I will buy all the land I can, and then I will develop it and pay it off. If you are not investing in land, you are missing out. Story 94. Acquire warehouses and fill them with food. Purchase as many apartment buildings as possible. Then hand everything over to union organizers and grassroots organizers. Mutual aid will support a general strike. Story 95. I would buy as many houses as possible in my small hometown in the prairies and pay my friends and family a generous signing bonus, conditional on living in and maintaining those properties for 2 generations. I imagine that would spark economic growth, and it would be wonderful to live around my friends and family again. Assuming it isn't against the clause to buy my own house, excluding the signing bonus? Story 96. Donate it all to reduce the United States public debt. Based on the debt increase between 2023 and 2024, it will prevent the United States from going further into debt for approximately 3.81 hours. Story 97. Prepaid fleet of Ferraris, Porsches, and various other cars. A super yacht, nothing extravagant, maybe $25 to $50 million. Luxury watches, high-end audio equipment, prepaid travel, some properties, etc. Story 98. Pay off all my husbands and my debt. Hire someone to build storage solutions in every closet, home office, and garage. Establish a scholarship fund in perpetuity for underprivileged children. And then contact every student loan servicer to pay off the oldest and largest loans they have on record. $25 million will go to pediatric cancer research and development. Perhaps the first step should be to place all that money into a trust for distribution as outlined. Story 99. I would order a golden statue of Donald Trump, and the cost of the gold should be roughly $1 billion minus labor. Then I will sell it to the United States so they can add it to their gold reserve. Trump will like it so much that he will display it somewhere in the White House. Story 100. I would buy land. There is always land available. In the right region, especially in areas where oil is often found, it can be expensive. Story 101. No matter what you buy, you will soon lose it. You spend everything and now you are broke. How will you keep up with a $1 billion skyscraper in New York City, a $200 million island, or a $300 million yacht? Story 102. First things first, I am buying every pair of shoes I have looked at twice. Then, I am renting out Disneyland and Six Flags for a private party at the same time. I envision elephants, jetpacks, and Beyoncé performing in my backyard, with someone cooking me a gold-plated steak on a yacht shaped like my face. Additionally, I am paying off strangers' debt just because I can. By hour 23, I am in a solid gold bathrobe yelling, "I am broke again!" like a legend. Story 103. Prepay my children's tuition and make a donation to secure future generations' attendance. Then spend the remainder on art and classic cars. Story 104. Spend everything I can and give the rest to a World Food Aid program before time is up. I don't need that much money. $5 million in assets and I'm set for life. Story 105. Pick 100 charities or research institutes to donate $10 million to. Consider giving $50 to $100 million to a few select organizations to expedite progress. You could easily spend the entire $1 billion on cancer research, screenings, and treatments. Story 106. This is actually very hard to do physically in a day. Cars are quite expensive, but even if you go to a dealership and say, "I want to buy every car on your lot," there is no way they have 10,000 cars available. Even if they did, you would have to sign your name multiple times for each car, resulting in 30,000 signatures. That only gives you 2.8 seconds per signature, assuming you spend no time sleeping or driving between car lots. The best chance is probably to find a building or collection of buildings worth about $300 million and significantly overpay for them so everyone is motivated to sell to you within 24 hours. Story 107. I am buying a company. I have several options I would pursue in that range. With only 24 hours, I may not secure a significant deal, but it will still provide me with benefits. If it grows even moderately, I can sell it in a few years and achieve over $1 billion in net worth. Story 108. Buy gold. Every piece I can. When there is no more gold, rhodium, platinum, silver, lithium, and other precious metals, I will move on to coal, iron ore, and other basic materials. Story 109. Support candidates and organizations that are working to stop Trump's efforts to undermine our country. Story 110. Contact several local universities where I have connections and negotiate a few permanent tenured professorships in exchange for a significant endowment donation to each. Spend a substantial amount of money paying off friends and family members' debts and purchasing desirable items. Story 111. Buying a remarkable property and investing significantly in animals, buildings, farming equipment, and other resources that could generate income once my beautiful farmland is rented out for events such as weddings or photo shoots. Story 112. Fund a significant infrastructure project. You could gain bonus points if you can receive something in return, such as partial ownership. Otherwise, consider establishing a philanthropic trust. Story 113. I purchase all the apartments in my building. I hire contractors to renovate them, cover hotel expenses for the over 100 families temporarily displaced, and once they return, I either maintain the rent or lower it to make it more affordable for everyone, as that billion will eventually be depleted. Whatever remains from that billion, I reinvest in other areas until it is gone. I now receive a total monthly income of several tens of thousands of euros, which I believe will enable me to cover nearly everything I desire while also setting aside sufficient funds for any necessary repairs to the apartments. I retire early and spend my days engaging with my tenants and playing video games at home. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.